Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2021 BMW Championship DFS Tactics show. Before we dig into that, a very quick announcement that next week with the Tour Championship, I'm going to condense everything, the research, the data dive, and the DFS Tactics all into one show. That'll be Tuesday evening. As Wednesday, I have prior obligations and I need to pack because I'm heading for Huntsville, Alabama to play in a baseball tournament. So I'm going to get everything into one show. It might be a little longer than just an hour to try to fit everything in. Take a look at odds and all the things that we normally do during the week, all condensed into one show. Wanted to make sure I let you all know that so you don't expect a Sunday or Monday show. I have finalized my betting card for the week, so follow me on social media. I always post it to Twitter there. A pretty light card for me, at least this week. There were just a lot of fair odds. I usually play some top 20s. I didn't like any of those or many of those odds, especially when you get into a smaller field with elite players. The values just aren't there. Which is a reminder, as we're going through the DFS Tactics, this is a no-cut event. So there's 69 players. The top 70 in the FedEx Cup qualified. Patrick Reed is not playing this week. So 69 players, so you don't have to worry about a 6 of 6 lineup getting through, but that means it puts extra emphasis on finding uniqueness. So we're going to uncover some hidden gems that I think that'll help you out. So follow on social media. That is where my betting card is. Chat is always open. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're leaning for this week, who you think is a top fade or a good pivot. And with that, let us get into the DFS Tactics for the BMW. And we're going to start with what I mentioned last night as I was going to fumble around with the mixed condition model. Let me make sure I bring chat up here. I started with the mixed condition model, and I've been toying with this all day. And this is where I landed. So I took quite a bit. I can't say quite a bit. I took some inspiration from what we looked at for the Northern Trust, what worked, what didn't. And what I found, what really worked, was focusing on the length of the holes. At least for Liberty National at the Northern Trust, it was par fours, 450 to 500. That was the majority of the par fours at Liberty National. And that is, again, the case here at Caves Valley for the BMW. You've got 6 of your 10 par fours in this range here. The difference is there's 3 drivable par fours. So I definitely wanted to look at that. All of the par threes will be long, so I wanted to look at that. And every single par 5 falls in this range. So instead of trying to toy with proximities and all of that, because this is a new course, I don't really know what proximities are going to come into play. You can get an idea, and we did that through on Sunday evening with the initial research show, going through the Pro Visualizer course. But until the course is actually played, you just don't know. What we do know is the rough will be the same length as it was at the Northern Trust. There is almost double the amount of acreage of rough. These greens are slightly bigger than at Liberty National, but not by much. So smaller greens, bent greens. So there were some comparisons to be made. And as the case is with any tournament, I'm going to value or put more weight, more stock into approach. I just want to see iron play. Sorry, let me scroll up for you. Just a long-term baseline, 36 rounds, who's just been hitting their irons the best. And I generally put that at 15, maybe even sometimes 20%. I exaggerated a lot in the data dive shows when we were building our base model. I'll usually put it at 20, 25, even higher sometimes. But when you start digging into specifics, I'll lower it to usually about 15%. I definitely want to see who drives the ball the best on these long courses. It looks like fairways are going to be a premium, but also something that I actually realized as I was poking through the research today building this data model, the distance actually mattered at the Northern Trust. So instead of focusing on just fairways gained, I upped the percentage of off the tee to 10% to account for distance and fairways. I think fairways is going to be important, but if it plays like the Northern Trust did, then distance is going to matter as well. Coming down a little bit further, approach, again, I want to see who hits their irons the best on these long courses. So focusing on off the tee and approach on these long courses. And then I broke out the majority of the holes at each par category. So par 5s, par 4s, par 3s. And I split the majority of the par 4s, and I also wanted to see who plays drivable par 4s the best, who gives themselves some eagles or chances at eagles and so on. So I put 10% on each of those. It could be argued that some of these might need to be 5 or whatever, but just to keep it consistent throughout, because this was so effective at the Northern Trust, I just wanted to put 10% on each of them, or at least keep it consistent. So I put 10% on each of them. Around the green, I only put 5%. I really don't know how much it's going to factor in this week. It could a lot, and I'm not putting enough percentage in that. I will I will freely admit that. I just don't know how much it's going to come into play. Because I don't know how much it's going to come into play, I also put in some scrambling just in case. As opposed to sand saves, the amount, the amount of, what was the terminology? Acreage or square footage of bunkers is the same from the last time that we saw this course, but they removed some bunkers. So what that means is the bunkers that they did keep, they expanded, but just removed some of the bunkers around the course. So if they removed bunkers, I thought it would be more scrambling than sand saves. I could be wrong. Again, the putting, as always, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fast. Again, I don't know, but last week at the Northern Trust, it was on the faster side, not as fast as I thought it would be. They tend to keep it at about 12 from what I've read here at Caves Valley, which is slightly on the faster end, but not, nothing like Augusta and so on where you're putting off the green. So just a baseline form of fast, putting on fast bent greens. And then the last two, I couldn't get away from. I ended up not being able to get away from opportunities and bogeys. And I wanted to specifically see who gives themselves the most opportunities or the best opportunities on long courses and who avoids the bogeys on the long courses. So there is the reasoning behind the statistics, the percentages, why I used the stats that I did. So if you're in chat, please let me know. What do you think? What would you have changed? What are you thinking going into this week for the DFS? But I'm going to load this model here. I already did this a little earlier, so it won't be much of a surprise to me. But as I sort by my rank, my number one ranked player, probably no surprise, or should be very little shock, is Colin Morakawa. Because I value iron play so much, if that's going to be the highest weighted statistic I use, well, that means the best iron player in the world is going to have a leg up. He generally does not play drivable par 4s well. Everyone's going to remember the PGA, and I forget the course's name in San Francisco now, where he eagled the drivable par 4 there to basically cement the PGA Championship. Everyone's going to remember that, but he generally doesn't play drivable par 4s well. He doesn't avoid a lot of bogeys, and he's not great at scrambling just because, generally he's not a great around the green player. But when you weight iron play as much as I do, Colin Morakawa is going to rise to the top or near the top. Rory ends up being my number 2. Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, and Paul Casey round up my top 5. And then Connors, Cantlay, Louis, English, and Vegas are the rest of the top 10. So A little bit of surprise here. Again, I was pretty high on Johnny Vegas last week. We looked at very heavily last night in the data dive that he just had a bad week with the driver, and he's generally pretty darn good off the tee. So banking on him coming back to his normal, his mean, I think this could set up pretty well for Vegas, especially on a bounce back. He's at 7,100. I like him a lot this week in DFS. I was a little surprised John Rahm fell as much as he did, but again, he doesn't play these drivable par fours as well as others in the field. So that kind of hurts him. He hasn't been the best on approaches on long courses, so that hurts him a bit too. He's good at avoiding bogeys. He's elite on long par fours. He's elite off the tee. So, I mean, he's still 11th out of 69. So he's not trash by any means. But I was a little surprised to see him fall that much. Connors is interesting. He's gotten a lot better off the tee. He's always been a world-class iron player. Where his tournament is made and lost is here. If he has any resemblance of a short game during the week, he's going to be very competitive. He just generally doesn't chip or putt well. He was making runs at tournaments earlier this summer because he was on a hot streak with his putter. But generally speaking, you can see he's just not. Sorry, let me get my big head out of the way. He's generally just not a good putter. In April and May. March and April, there was a stretch there of 4 tournaments where he was gaining quite a bit of strokes on the green. Quite a bit, not just breaking even. And that's why you see all these high finishes, the 3rd, the 7th, a top 15 and an 8th at the Masters, a 4th at the RBC. His putting came back down to earth, and he hasn't been atrocious, but he hasn't had the high finishes. He had a top 10 last week just because, again, he's just all world with his irons. Minus Colin Morakawa and maybe a couple others. Corey Connors is in the top 10 of iron players in the world, maybe even top 5. He's that good with his irons. But he's never going to be a good putter. He's been pretty bad around the green as well. So it's what you're willing to risk. He's definitely a high upside play, but he certainly has a floor to him as well. So be aware of that for your DFS lineups. Something else, let's see, just trying to go through here, figure out other things that might have stood out. I've talked a lot about Sung Jae recently. He seems to be rounding into form. He had a decent Northern Trust. He's still, if he puts all parts of his game together, like he did here at the Rocket Mortgage, it was a top 10. But if you, I believe in the talent. I believe in the talent of Sung Jae Im. He's just not put everything together lately. And when I say lately, as in this season, this 2021 season. If he does, the fact that he hasn't and is still here at the BMW and threatening to get to Eastlake, that just shows you the quality of player he is. Now, granted, he plays almost every week, so that also helps. But, the talent's there. One of these times he's going to jump up and win. He's going to pop up and win. And I'd rather be early than late. With DFS, with betting, I'd rather be early than late. So I'm still using Sung Jae. I'm starting to get more confident in using Sung Jae. Knowing full well it could come back to bite me because I'm too early. If we go down towards the bottom here, there's a few names that maybe shouldn't surprise you, but given the price of the guys, maybe it's something to be wary of. Kevin Kisner here, great around the green. No, I'm sorry, excuse me. Great putting. He's pretty good around the green. Just fantastic putter, but he has not been playing well of anything else lately. He's always been a good short game player. So scrambling, around the green, putting. Generally plays these par threes, long par threes, pretty well too. Probably because if he misses the green, he can scramble his way to a par. But he's just not been very good. I backed him at the St. Jude, I believe it was, and it didn't work out for me that week. He didn't play awful, but he wasn't great. He wasn't last, is what I'll say. And then he comes back and wins the Wyndham the week after. Thanks, Kevin Kisner, jackass. So that's one to kind of be wary about. Let's see. I'm always FOMO on Siwoo Kim. I just can't back him in DFS. Varner, but you see here you've got your bottom of the barrel pricing for a reason. You've got the most elite players in the world. Alex Noren is a little interesting. He's so far down. Eric Van Rooyen as well. Sam Burns. But that's enough for my model. This is what I have here. Let's start talking about salaries and projected ownerships and such. We will start. Give me one moment. There it is. Oh, I lied. Let me scroll up here. Bring up the projections. We are. Oh, that's why. So I'm going to go ahead and star my top 25 that I normally do. And honestly, this week, because it's a no-cut event, and because there's a limited amount of players in the field, I've actually gone as far as half of this, and trying to generate different lineups and so on. So let me just star all these, make sure I get all of those that data in, and now we'll start the projections. All right, so let's start at the let's start in the 10Ks. So you've got John Rahm at 11.7, Xander at 11.1, Spieth at 10.8, Thomas 10.6, DJ 10.4, Brooks at 10.2, and Morakawa at 10,000 even. There is one pivot play in this entire range. The highest projected owned guy in the whole tournament happens to be the most expensive. John Rahm is projected at 22.5%. And I understand why. He's the best player in the world. Him being the most... He's probably the most consistent. By picking Rahm, you're pretty sure you know what you get. You're going to get probably a top 10, pretty good run of birdies. For me, I would rather spend a little bit of this money elsewhere. I'm certainly going to have a little bit of exposure to Rahm, don't get me wrong. But I am going to limit that, especially since he's the most, or at least projected, most owned player in the field at 22.5%. That's a pretty easy fade for me, a reason to get off of him. Then you have Justin Thomas at 16, a little over 16.5%. Yeah, I mean, I like Justin Thomas this week. His putter is bulky, but I mean he's a world class player. But if he's going to be at 16.5%, I can get off of him. He's third in my ranking, so I do want to have a little bit of exposure. But if I'm taking Justin Thomas, then I have to find unique elsewhere, and I can do it, but his price point is a very convenient. It's middle of the road. It's very convenient. It's very easy to work around. The one person that I've been kind of targeting in this area is Dustin Johnson. 19th in my model. He's been kind of lackluster, not DJ like. He doesn't play these drivable par fours well. He hasn't been scrambling the best, but I mean when you look at DJ, He's not the best putter on bent, sure. But generally speaking, he's been playing okay. He's got a missed cut at the Northern Trust last week where he just didn't play well. He missed the cut at this very end, which is, a very, very, it's not alternate field-esque, but it's close. Missed the cut there, and then he top 10s at the St. Jude, top 10s the Open. So, it wasn't, early part of this calendar season, fall of 2020, early 2021, he was like Dustin Johnson. He wins the Masters in November, comes around, does okay at the Players, misses the cut at the Masters in April. A decent finish at the RBC, top 10 at the Palmetto, top 20 at the U.S. Open. He just hasn't been clicking. And it's kind of like the Sung Jae. He just hasn't been clicking, but the talent is clearly there. He's shown the winning upside clearly. DJ is at 11% right now, projected ownership, at least according to Fantasy National. So that's who I've been targeting lately. As I was building lineups and such this week, it seems like the public is just a bit off of him. So the ownership range in this area is Rahm at 22.5, JT at just over 16.5. You've got Brooks at 13.5. Then Xander at 12%. DJ and Morakawa at 11, and your pivot in this range is Jordan Spieth. And I don't know if people are getting scared away by the Monday at the Northern Trust where he completely imploded. I've been targeting DJ. I can easily go to Spieth as well. The thing about DJ is you don't think $400 is a lot. It is. $400 can really bring your lineup together. So that's why I've been focusing on DJ. I don't have a problem with Spieth. I've just been looking at DJ more so than not. For those who are, Colin Morakawa is rated number 1 in my model, so I will have some exposure to him. I am still wary of the injury, the undisclosed injury that he had coming into the Northern Trust. He clearly missed the cut there. It affected him. Final round at the Olympics. For those who don't know, he suffered a back injury the final round of the Olympics and didn't tell anybody. And then came to the Northern Trust and just wasn't Colin Morakawa. Now, whether that's healed in a week, I don't know. But I'm wary. If you're going to tell me that Colin Morakawa is even 75% Colin Morakawa, I would jump on it very quickly, considering he's the lowest 10K guy. It's how risk averse are you going to be? Is this going to be your risk? Kind of like the opposite of Jon Rahm. You kind of know what you're going to get with Jon Rahm. Now, Jon Rahm's ceiling is certainly a win, but Jon Rahm's floor is not as low clearly as Morikawa's. Rahm's is just consistent, whereas Morikawa has a wide range of outcomes. So if you're willing to take that chance and it pays off, you're looking very good. But if you're going to take him in a lineup and you have a couple other risk reward big long shots that have low floors, that could hurt you. It just depends on how risk averse you want to be. I'll have a little bit. I'm trying to limit it. So I've been targeting DJ in this area. Again, I don't have a problem with Spieth. I like JT, but at the second most owned in this range, it's going to force me to limit the exposure. Analytically, for whatever reason, Brooks never rates out well for me, which means you should probably use him. But I don't know. Something just hasn't felt right with Brooks Koepka lately. Kind of like DJ in that sense. Just something hasn't been right. Well, that's the 10Ks. Let's move on into the 9s. You've got Finau at 98, Louis at 96, Smith at 95, Rory 94, Deschamps at 93, Cantlay, Hovland, and Berger 92, 91, and 9,000 respectively. If you've been paying attention at all to me this week, you know I've been hammering Rory. I am hammering Rory. I think the Northern Trust was an absolute outlier. He's one of the better ball strikers in the world, and he lost 4 strokes on approach last week. I don't see that happening again. So if he comes back to form, it's going to be a pretty good week for Rory. Now, his putter is volatile, so you have to hope that he hits, has another good week on the putting green, which, is not a guarantee by any means, but I'm willing to take that chance on Rory. One of the better players in the world, obviously. I'm not too high on Cameron Smith. So in this range, it looks like this range is getting used quite heavily. So the second most projected owned player in the field this week is Bryson at 21%. You've got Rory at 18, almost 19%. You've got Cantlay at 16.5%, Hovland at 16%, Scheffler's 89%, but Scheffler's also highly owned. He's at 17%. So yeah, a lot of people are gravitating towards this part of the board, which tends to lead me to think that the people are going balance, which is generally the case in these big tournaments, these invitationals, the majors, because you have so much star power. You're going to have guys that are just great golfers in the 9K range. That's just the way it works. So generally speaking, people are going to build a more balanced lineup. Having said that, with Rahm, the highest projected owned, if they're doing a balanced lineup, they're doing Rahm and maybe Berger or Hovland and then coming down. So it looks like it's a very polarizing extreme where the people who are using Rahm are definitely going stars and scrubs, and the others are doing an absolute balanced build. I see most teams are starting probably with Rahm or Thomas and doing the stars and scrubs, or they're going, say, like Louis, Rory, Hovland, or Rory, Desham, Berger, or something to that effect, and building balance. The numbers are kind of all over the place, to be honest with you. I tend to think it's going to be more balanced built than stars and scrubs, just because of how heavy this range is being hit. I mean, Rory at 18.8, Desham at 21, Hovland at 16 or Cantlay at 16.5, Hovland at 16.2, Berger at 13.5. Your pivot in this area is at the top end of the board. Finau coming off the win, 11%, Louis at 11.2, and Cam Smith at 12. So I mean, none of those guys are pivots by any stretch of the imagination. 11% is not a pivot, but in comparison to the bottom part of the board, it is. I'm okay with using Louis, knowing that his upside. When I say is limited, it means it's not win based. He's certainly a top tier player. He's going to get you a top 10, top 5. So nothing wrong with that. But when you have 6 of 6 guaranteed to go through, you really need to find the guys who are going to be the least owned and provide the most bang for your buck. And Louis just doesn't do that for me. He just doesn't do that for me this week, or really any week. Louis is just consistent. He's very consistent. He's going to get you your points. He's going to get you your, 10th place finishing points, your 5th place. Not going to kill you with a bunch of bogeys. But again, if he's the pivot, if Louis and Finau and Cameron Smith are the pivots in the area and they're still at 11 and 12% owned, I'm just going to fade this entire area. I'll probably pick a little bit of chalk in here. I said I've been hammering Rory and betting. I'll probably use him in DFS. That's the chalk I'll eat because I just think this sets up well for Rory. I certainly can't argue Hovland. I can't argue Cantlay. I'm just going to eat the Rory. And if I build a balanced lineup, it's probably going to be something to the effect of, Rory and, I don't know, maybe Morakawa, or maybe Rory and jump into the 8s down here and really try to build balance. I mean, really balance, avoid the 6s. But it's just hard. It's hard to do. So I'm tending to fade this entire region, to be honest with you, minus the times I'm exposing myself to Rory, knowing that I'm setting myself up for a 5v5 or even a 4v4. But it's the way it goes when you only have 70 players in the field. So that's my take on the 9Ks. Moving to the 8s, you got Scheffler. Let's see, all of these decreased by 100 in order. So Scheffler, Matsuyama, Answer, Connors, Simpson, English, Burns, Paul Casey, Joaquin Niemann, and Sungjae. You can see here, other than Sam Burns, I've got these guys rated fairly well. Scheffler, the third lowest? Yeah. So I've got Webb Simpson, 29th, Scheffler, 27th. Scheffler's actually the most owned in this region at just over 17%. Okay. He's the best at the par 5 lengths. He's the second best at long par 3s. Sure. But if he's the most owned in this region, I can fade that fairly easily. It looks like if people are building balance, they're kind of bottoming out at the top end, quote, for Scheffler. That's what it seems, at least. Scheffler at 17, Casey at 16.5. So perhaps guys are dropping down into the Casey figure here, and I understand why. He's just a solid player. Last week, it didn't look like he had a very good tournament. He didn't. It was all on one thing. He's normally a very good bent green putter. Well, he just wasn't last week. He normally doesn't lose. I was about to say he normally doesn't lose 6.5. Nobody loses 6.5 consistently, but for him that is very odd considering bent greens are his best. So that's clearly an outlier, an abnormality. I expect him to bounce back, and if things are generally the same, maybe he gains 4 to 5 on approach, gains his 3 off the tee, isn't so atrocious with his entire short game. Yeah, I mean, I understand Paul Casey. He's like Louis. He's just consistent. So with those two being the extreme chalk in this area, you've got a couple of people that are true pivots. I mean, true pivots. So you got Scheffler, like I said, at 17, Casey at 16.5, Hideki at 15.5, Berger at 13. Sorry, where you go? Berger at 13.5. Connors is at 13.3, which kind of stinks because I was kind of on Connors. I thought I had something sneaky there, and apparently a lot of people are onto it as well. I'll still have some Connors exposure, but seeing 13% kind of hurts. Then you got Harris English at 13, Sam Burns at 12.5. That's an easy fade for me considering where I have him in my model. Sam Burns is an easy fade for me. I just don't see this setting up well for him. Then the rest of the 8Ks, you have Niemann and Sungjae at 10%, which aren't true pivots, but that's pretty low ownership. You got Sungjae and Niemann, and I've already talked about Sungjae. I believe in the player, so I would choose Sungjae in that scenario. But the two real pivots in this area, surprisingly, at least to me, is Abraham Answer. Answer is at 9% right now, and he's been playing some fantastic golf. He's 12th in my model. He's very good on bent greens. We don't know if this is going to be easy. I tend to think it will be, but we don't know. He plays his best on easy courses. He's never been good chipping and around the green. It's just the kind of player he is, but he's been playing well everywhere else, including the putting. So Yeah, I mean his win off the St. Jude, top 5 the Travelers. He did miss the cut at the U.S. Open, but that was preceded by a 5 straight tournaments of top 20s. I mean, he's been playing some very good golf, and he's a true pivot in this area at 9%. But the biggest pivot in this area is Webb Simpson. Webb's at 7%. And I can kind of understand why. When you think long course, you think Webb might struggle. The reason why I'm going to put this into light, I think Webb's going to be a pretty good play this week. I certainly wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket. But if the fairways are as hard to hit as I think they will be, because the GCSAA tournament sheet that we looked at last night at the beginning of the Data Dive show made it very clear that there was a point of emphasis that they narrowed the fairways to roughly 25 yards. So take that what you want. That it seemed to be a point of emphasis for them that they wanted to narrow the fairways, make it harder for it to be hit. So if that's the case, well, Webb Simpson's a fairway hitter. He's going to hit his fairways. So if other guys are struggling, even though he doesn't hit it as long, if other guys are struggling to hit fairways, he's at least going to be in play. So his off the tee numbers are low, purely from the lack of distance. He doesn't play drivable par 4s well. Obviously, he's having to lay up, so he's not giving himself a lot of eagle opportunities, which is shown here as well. But other than that, he's pretty darn. He plays long par 3s well, plays these length of par 5s pretty well because he's solid. He's always been good around the green, always good with the putter. I like Webb Simpson this week. He's not gonna maybe outright win you a DFS contest, but he's certainly going to be a part of it. I think the most optimal lineup is going to include Webb Simpson, just because one of price, and two because of the lack of ownership. I think Webb's in a pretty good spot to be used in DFS. Again, I'm not saying he's going to win the tournament. I think he's going to be underutilized in DFS. So I like Webb quite a bit. So that's the 8Ks. Let's see. Moving down into the high 7s, we've got Shane Lowry at 79, Kokrak and Henley at 78, Keegan and Noren at 77, Sergio and Kevin Na 76, and Aaron Rorian and Cameron Chingali at 7,500. Moving our way down the board, we are starting to leave the heavily owned. This is where people are starting to try to find their unique. It looks like people are willing to eat the chalk up on the price board, and they're going to try to find their unique down here. In their balance builds, it's in the low 7s or maybe a high 7. In the stars and scrubs, they're trying to bargain shop and find the guy in the 6s that they think is going to be unique, has a chance. Hopefully, I showed you, with Webb, and to a lesser extent, Answer, in the 8s that you can give yourself some leverage. You can give yourself some uniqueness and still be able to find some more down here in the 7s if there's somebody you really like. But in the high 7s, it looks like this area is just being avoided altogether. You've got Shane Lowry at 11.5%, and you've got Keegan Bradley at just over 11. So Lowry at 79 is 11.5%, and then Keegan is at 11%. I understand Keegan. He plays well. He can certainly just throw away tournaments with the putter. Darnell, Lowry or Kokrak? I tend to agree with you. They're pretty close in this model, this mixed condition model. Lowry 28th, Kokrak 35th. I tend to agree with you. I think I like Lowry better than Kokrak this week. The problem being Lowry is more owned than Kokrak. Lowry, at least projected. Lowry is at 11.5%. Kokrak is at 10.5%. Now, 1% ownership. Is that enough to outweigh how much more I think Lowry is better than Kokrak this week? Probably not. Probably not. Lowry certainly has his struggles, but baseline, his approach has been great. He does struggle with approaches on long courses, but it's not like Kokrak's lighting it up either. Lowry's clearly the much better around the green player. I don't know how much that's going to be a factor since this course has never been played on the PGA Tour. If it is a factor, that's a big advantage for Lowry. The advantage for Kokrak would be on these drivable par fours. So if they come into play, if these drivable par fours lend themselves to a lot of eagles, then you have to think Kokrak is at least advantageous there. Now, he's certainly not great, 32nd versus 48th in the field of 69. It's not like you have 3rd versus 60th. These guys are they're middle of the road or slightly under. I'm with you, Darnell. I think, I'm pretty confident that it's going to be Lowry in that case. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm avoiding this area of the board anyway. In a balanced build, I am trying to bottom out at like Webb Simpson or Sung Jae, and then moving down into the low 7s or high 6s. In a stars and scrubs, I'm just not around here at all. I'll creep into the low 7s, but I think there's some values in the 6s. And when we get there, I'm all over. I agree with you all the way with Connors. He's 6th in my model. Where'd he go? 6th overall in my model. He's one of the best iron players in the world. Great on long courses. The thing with Connors, as it always is a short game. It's a short game. Is he going to be able to make a putt? Is he going to chip? If it doesn't, then you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a 20th or a 25th. If he actually does make some putts, there's your winning upside. But moving back into the 7Ks real quick, you got a lot of pivots in here. A lot of pivots. Like I said, you've got Shane Lowry at 11.5%, Keegan Bradley at 11%. Everyone else is, a pretty good pivot. You got Sung Jae's at 8,000. Kokrak at 10.5%, Henley at 9%, Naw at 6%, Sergio at 6%. Tringali is at 7%. I like Tringali a lot this week. I really like Tringali this week. He plays these long par 3s very, very well. Plays the par 5s very well. He's the best scrambler in the field. Pretty good at avoiding his bogeys. I like Tringali this week. I really, really do. And if you're going to give me him at 7.5%, okay. All right. I like that better than Lowry and Kokrak, to be honest with you, and it saves $300 to go elsewhere. He's been in pretty good form too. Off the tee hasn't been great, but you can't argue with the putting, the around the green, the approaches. Pretty good. If off the tee, if he comes back and just is neutral on off the tee, he's going to win you some tournaments. You come in, he's got, 4 straight top 30. I'll count this as a top 25 just to make it easy. 4 straight top 25s with not driving the ball very well. His irons have been very good. When he's been bad or negative in the around the green, it hasn't killed him. He's starting to putt well. We're on bent. He likes bent. So I don't know how difficult this course is going to be, but I tend to think it's going to be easy, especially since the conditions are so similar to the Northern Trust last week. Fast bent greens, 3-inch rough, small greens. There's a lot to like about Tringali this week. I think there's a gem there in the mid 7s at 7.5%. Van Rooyen's at 5%. Your big pivot is Noren, and I understand why he's a pivot. I'm off of Noren. People want to think he had a fantastic tournament last week. He had a great finish. That was all in his putting. It was all in his putting. Now he's a good putter. Don't get me wrong. he can certainly do these things. But I mean, this is look in the rearview mirror, show your ass, and run away. That's not the kind of numbers you expect week in and week out. So I think this is a little bit artificial there. He certainly played well. How do I feel about Berger? I'm generally speaking, I'm always a fan of Berger because he's just solid. There's no part of his game that is just atrocious. When you say nobody's talking about him, I mean he's projected at 13.5 ownership. He is certainly the least owned guy in this price range. So sure. I mean his irons are great. He's been playing the par fives. The problem is Berger. I was high on Berger last week, and he just didn't play well. Granted, all of that was in the putting as well. So if it's true for Noren, the inverse also has to be true for Berger to come back to at least somewhat of a norm. Because I mean, he's ball striking the ever living shit out of it. I mean, and he's ball striking the shit out of it. And look at these finishes. The problem is he was gaining strokes there. The one time he didn't gain strokes, it was a very middling PGA. Now, I don't think he's going to lose 6 strokes on the green again. I really don't. But what gives me pause is that these, again, like I said, these are the same style, very similar style conditions. Fast bent greens. He's never been a good around the green player. So if that's a factor, and just full transparency, I have no idea if it's going to be a factor or not. I really don't. But if this becomes a chipping thing like Cameron Smith did last week, well, Berger's in trouble. And another reason why I'm a little hesitant on Berger is because bent is clearly not his favorite putting surface. So when people ask, how do I feel about Berger, I'm always going to back Berger, even if he's chalk. He's such a solid player. There's no weakness in his game. I mean, having said that, I was trashing his putting a little bit. He's still a positive. He's still a net positive putter. His bent's his worst. He had very similar style last week where it was fast bent greens. If you're in this area of the price board, yes, because he's the least owned, and I feel the I like him better than Scheffler, for example, at $100 more. Hovland. So Berger is the high floor, low ceiling guy for me, whereas Hovland is the low floor, high ceiling. Hovland can fuck around and just win. He could just fuck around and win this thing. Certainly, but he also has a much, much lower floor as well. Like Berger, I feel like you're going to get, you can probably pencil in a top 20 unless he loses 6 strokes on the green again. But you're going to get a top 20, top 10. Maybe he runs off 3 birdies in a row or has a bogey-free round. But, for $100 more, I'll take the upside in Hovland, I think. Even if he's more owned, I still think I would take the upside chance and make sure I get consistency somewhere else. Maybe in a Louis, maybe in a Justin Thomas or a Spieth, even though Spieth imploded. But generally speaking, those kind of guys, Louis is safe, Paul Casey is safe, and then take my shot, my low floor, high ceiling in Hovland. So price is a little different on super. See, I'm not on Super Draft, so I don't know the formula or the format there. Is it 6 golfers like DraftKings and FanDuel and such? Yeah, you're always trying to limit your playing pool. I've starred half of the field just to give myself an idea. 6 golfers. Yeah, so it sounds like it's very similar in format to DraftKings and FanDuel, a multiplier system. Okay, all right. So is it more advantageous to be? Is Is it more advantageous to be good, so birdies are worth more than bogeys are penalizing, or is it the inverse where bogeys are so killer that it outweighs any birdie that you get? Does that make sense? But while I'm waiting for bogeys are -1, Scheffler is 1.2. Okay. All right. So yeah, DraftKings bogeys are -0.5 a point. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So in that case, it sounds like you want the guys that are birdie machines, and you really kind of. It's not that you don't care about bogeys, but they're just less penalizing than somebody that's going to go out and just be a birdie machine that can really light it up and go low. Sounds like what that scoring system is like. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I can still interpret what you're getting at. But if that's the case, if you're needing guys who are going to just have the upside like Hovland, I think there's a couple of 6K guys that I've got for you. So let me rattle through the lower sevens here, and there's going to be a couple of guys that I think can help you if you're okay with taking a risk. Because I mean, it's a big risk. Anytime you're dipping down into the bottom of the price boards, they're down there for a reason. But let's rattle off these the low sevens here. Low sevens. There is really two plays in the low sevens. Vegas and Hoffman both are at 14.5. I like Vegas this week. I was all over Vegas last week. It didn't turn out well for me. I think he's going to find the form again with the driver. I think this sets up well for Johnny Vegas. I could very well be wrong 2 weeks in a row. But I like Vegas in this spot, but he is 14, a little more over the 14%. Everybody else around here is pretty much a pivot. Champ's at 8.5%. I just don't like Champ. I mean, you're getting some things as low as like Varner at 3.5, Horschel at 2.5, Harmon at 2.5. I don't like any of those plays. Like I said, I've been staying away from a lot of the price on this board. I like Tringali. If I'm going up in the top tier of the sevens, I've been going Sungjae at 8. I like Tringali at 75, and I've been avoiding the low sevens altogether except for Vegas. I mean, I might have a little bit to Hoffman just because he can hit his iron so well. But that's really, I mean, I've just been staying away from the low sevens. And you're right, Darnell. Like, the 1 week he made putts, he won. But you see, I mean, Bent's his least favorite surface. Take nothing away from him. He won the 3M Open, but he gained 8.5 strokes, and he's a historically bad putter. Again, you have to make the putts to do it, so I mean, he did it, but there's a reason there was a lot of red beforehand, a whole lot of red beforehand. So I mean, it happens. Guys have good weeks on the green, and they can't miss a 10-footer to save their life. If they had to miss a 10-footer to save their life, they couldn't. I mean, that's what his week was, and he won. But I'm not feeling Champ. I love Siwoo Kim. I've got a FOMO for him. I can't do it in DFS. Kisner, no. Streelman, no. Champ, Harmon. So I've been staying away from the low sevens completely. If there is chalk, if there is somebody I would play in this range, it's Vegas, and I'll eat that chalk in this range. We'll move into the sixes, and you already hit the one that I love in this range. We'll do the high 6,000s and the low 6,000s. I'm all over Cam Davis. I love Cam Davis this week. He certainly has his flaws. He generally doesn't play the par fives of this length very well. He's never been good around the green. He'll bogey with the best of them. He doesn't scramble very well. But in your format, what you mentioned, Darnell, I mean, he's the best at these long par threes And when you come into, or I'm sorry, that was McNeely. He's the best at these drivable par fours. He's the best at these drivable par fours. If you want somebody that can just go out and make an eagle or two, that's Cam Davis. Because his tee game is his strength by a lot. When he won the Rocket Mortgage, I mean, it's hilarious. 8.4 there. I like Cam Davis a lot this week. Again, it's more of a gut feel type thing. And you've seen he can get hot with the putter too. He can get hot with the putter. Some of these guys, if they quote get hot with the putter, they're 1 or 2 strokes above above the field. He's shown 6.5, 5, 5 and change. Now certainly he has the inverse. He also has like full Sergio putt with your eyes closed ability too. But I'm much more a believer in this. And in this, his irons haven't been great lately. That is something to be worried about. But again, Cam Davis was somebody I kind of locked into early this week for this simple fact right here. Short par fours, he's the best in the field. He gives himself a lot of opportunities. He's not atrocious at putting. Not atrocious. He's not great, but he's not atrocious. He plays the long par fours well because of his tee game. His approaches on long courses are good. So yeah, I like Cam Davis quite a bit this week. I've got a win bet on him at a long odds. So I'm hoping I'm with you there, Darnell. So Cam Davis at 69, I like him a lot. He is only at 7.5% owned. So give me all of the Cam Davis this week. You mentioned Munoz. I can't get there. I can't get there. He'll give himself some opportunities, but I mean, at least at the stuff that I'm valuing or what I think will play this week, there's not a lot to like. There's not a lot to like. So if Munoz plays well, then all the power to you. Then you saw something that I didn't. I just don't see it. I mean, yes, he had a great John Deere, but John Deere's, I mean, it's not an alternate field event, but it wasn't the best of fields. He's never been good around the green. Is that going to come into play? I really don't know. So maybe his weakness is negated, and maybe Munoz is a good player. I can't get there on Munoz. I just can't. So if he does well, by all means, Darnell, come back next week and just laugh in my face, because I'll eat that crow. I just can't get there. I normally like Stuart Sink. I don't think this plays well for him. Ortiz, I like Grillo quite a bit this week, especially if you need somebody who, he's going to give himself the opportunities. He plays long par fours well. His irons are good. It's kind of like Connors. Comes down to chipping and putting. I mean, he is the worst in the field around the green. He is the worst in the field around the green. So if that's a factor this week, count Emiliano Grillo out. So that's for the high 6Ks. I mean, literally, Munoz at 12% is the chalk in this area. Pick another guy. He's a pivot. I mentioned Grillo. He's at 5%. Keith Mitchell's at 10% for some reason. Everyone is coming on to Keith Mitchell, I guess, from his good performance at the Northern Trust. No, I mean, I think it's all based in that. I mean, granted, 2 weeks prior he gained, set more than 7 strokes on the green as well, but I don't know. I just don't like guys who don't hit irons very well. Now, certainly his off the tee game is you can't argue with it. It's very strong. I'm just not there on Keith Mitchell either. So you've hit 2 names that I have been keyed on in the low 6s. So you mentioned Aaron Wise. I really like Aaron Wise this week. He's kind of he's kind of like Daniel Berger. He doesn't really have a lot of weakness in his game. He's just not as strong as Daniel Berger is in all the categories. He's not terrible at anything. I mean, yeah, he could play the long par fives a little better, but I don't mind Aaron Wise this week at all. I don't. I got him 22nd in the field. You mentioned I like Taylor Gooch a lot as well. I only have him 30th in the field, but at 6,200, I think you can do a lot worse. As in, like, I don't know, Patton Kizzire, Harry Higgs. I don't mind Taylor Gooch. If you need to come down this part of the price board, Wise I like, Taylor Gooch I like. You also mentioned Hudson Swanford, and I kind of keyed in on him a little bit earlier this week too. He plays these long par fives well, he putts well. The thing with Hudson Swanford, I mean, he putts bit fairly well. If you can drive, you can putt, you always have a chance to win. You have never seen Hudson Swanford gain seven and a half strokes off the tee. You just don't see it. Here's a fact that you probably didn't know, Darnell. If you did, congrats, because I've been asking friends this today and yesterday, and they had no idea. Who led the Northern Trust in strokes gained off the tee? You're looking at him. Hudson Swanford led the Northern Trust in strokes gained off the tee. Now he's a good off the tee player, but he's not 7.5 strokes good. He's not better than Bryson off the tee. He's not better than Rahm or Rory off the tee. He led the field in strokes gained off the tee. So, I mean, at 6,000, you can certainly do a lot worse. Not saying, I mean, Hudson, if you're really going into the basement, into the scrubs, yeah, sure, Hudson Swanford. I can understand the narrative behind it. I mean, he was better, 2 strokes better than everyone else in the field at the Northern Trust. His tee game is good. It's not, it's not better than Bryson by 2 hole shots. So I think there's a little bit of, I don't want to call it luck. There's a little bit of regression to the mean coming for Hudson Swanford. But you mentioned Hudson Swanford. I'm going to give you a guy, especially for your format, Darnell, that it rewards going low much more than penalizing bogeys. You're probably Kirk I like too. I'm going to throw out Tom Hoge. And hear me out here before you laugh and before you walk away, which, honestly, as soon as I said Tom Hoge, maybe should have walked away anyway. Tom Hoge is the best in the field at giving himself opportunities. Now, he has to convert those opportunities, yes. And he generally doesn't do that very well. But if you're looking to go pure stars and scrubs, and you want to come down into the 6,000s, best in the field at giving himself opportunities is Tom Hoge. Plays these drivable par 4s pretty darn well. Plays long par 3s well. He's been very good with approaches on long courses. So if a course is long, Tom Hoge is not afraid to go low. He's also not afraid to shoot 83 either. That's what I'll say. But in a format like yours where it rewards going low, it's an if. If Tom Hoge goes low, you're going to be looking at a pretty good payday here, because he is at literally 1.5% projected ownership. In fact, in below 6,500, there are 2 guys that are even coming close to being chalk. That's Aaron Wise at 9.5 and Taylor Gooch at 10. So Tom Hoge at 1.5%. I will be playing some Tom Hoge, knowing full well that it could just blow up in my face. He's not going to gain 7 strokes on the green. I mean, he probably isn't going to gain any strokes on the green. Let's just be honest with each other here. But if you're looking for somebody who can just go low, and remember, this is a no-cut event. So it's not like if he has 2 bad rounds on Thursday and Friday, he doesn't have to worry about, missing a cut. Yeah, he had 1 good week. He's probably not going to do that again. But again, he's got 1 round. If he goes 1 round where he goes low, that's all you need from a 6,000 guy. That's all you need from a 6,000 guy. And Tom Hoge can go low with the best of them. Problem is he just doesn't do it a lot, and he mixes in those 63s with 88s. So, but you mentioned Swanford. Swanford's pretty chalky for this area of the board at least. I wanted to give you a name to consider. Now, if you go Swanford, I'm not gonna argue against it. I understand the narrative, but give Hoge a look. Give Hoge a look for that reason. Yes, he has to convert those opportunities, but in a field with Jon Rahm and Bryson and Justin Thomas and all the stars, he's the best in the field at giving himself opportunities. For a literal basement guy of 6,000, you could do worse. You could play KH Lee. So that's going to do for my take on the price boards and the projected ownerships. Let's take a look at the wind real quick, and I think it's not going to be a factor. It's not going to be a factor. If you look here, this weather, weather tower, whatever you want to call it, wind tower, is west of the course by maybe 5 miles or so. Very benign. Thursday, hardly any wind. Friday, hardly any wind. Sorry, there you go. Thursday, hardly any wind. Friday, no wind. Saturday, maybe kicks up a little bit. I mean, basically, the story here is perfect week and weekend for golf. You do have a little bit of rain in the forecast, so how that affects the course, I really don't know. Like I said, this has never been played on the PGA Tour, so how that affects the course, we don't know. It's going to be hot. It's summer after all, but there is no wind to factor in, so there's no AM/PM split to worry about. So play the guys that you think and roll with it. As we do every week with the DFS Tactics, let me switch over to my my Excel focus here. Let me bring up the Microsoft Excel. For those who play tiers contests, and it's not a very popular contest style type, but for those who do, rattle through this real quick. Tier 1, you've got, that's not right. Harris English definitely isn't that. This got all messed up. Well, I apologize, because I'm not going to go through this again. I'm just going to hide these columns. Somehow, that all got changed when I was sorting. So, my apologies for that. If you play tiers, reach out to me, social media, in the comments. I'll be more than happy to give you my opinion on that. I apologize. It was an oversight on my end. I was playing around with this data model, and I forgot to resort it. So sorry about that. Let's take a look here. Let me bring this over. Yeah, there you go. So I've got this first column frozen, so that way we can see. Let's try to build a couple of lineups here. First, we're going to let's build this balanced lineup that seems like it's getting a lot of play here. And we're going to try to beat that, I think. So, again, sorry, I keep moving chat. Let me move it over here so I'm not clicking incessantly. All right, so if we're going to build this balanced lineup, and let me sort this. So that way it's just easier. There's no need to switch back and forth and go rewind and stuff. These are my rankings from Fantasy National. I just import them into Excel. So sort, we'll go with column B, highest, go. All right. There we go. All right, so with this balanced lineup, my guess, and this is a pure guess. I'm thinking most people are probably going Justin Thomas. They could be dropping down a little bit further, but my guess is they're going, perhaps going Justin Thomas, and then maybe to the extent of Rory, and then coming down, maybe Paul Casey. Again, these are pretty chalky plays. I'm trying to guess what the this average balanced build is. Sorry, I'm trying to think of two things at once. Let's see, where else are they going? Perhaps they're probably bottoming out at Johnny Vegas or Hoffman. So that gives us what, 77 per, roughly. That gives us something to the effect of probably like Keegan and Lowry, maybe. Let's see how that works. Shane Lowry would help if I could spell. And Keegan, is that right? Is that about? Gosh, you said you couldn't type, Darnell. Look at me. No, that's 900 over. Balls. Let's drop Rory. Actually, you know what? Let's say instead of Justin Thomas, let's say they go. I don't know. Let's do Rory and Bryson. Actually, let's do that. Rory, Bryson. What's that look like? Yeah, so that's 400 under the price. That's probably a rather average looking balanced build here. Probably guys substituting around here. Maybe they're paying up a little bit, going to I don't know, maybe Sam Burns or something, or dropping down. Maybe they're going into the high sixes. They're getting Sebastian Munoz and upgrading Rory to a 10K or something. Yeah, Scheffler's probably right. Scheffler is at 89. Because a lot of people are playing Casey as well. A lot of people are playing Casey. Who's at 10-2? Brooks. Okay, we'll try that. Brooks. God. Brooks, and then Rory. Son of a bitch. That's 500 over. Oh, Scotty. Duh. Scotty. There you go. Right at 5,000. What, Scheffler? Oh, I like Rory a whole lot more than Scheffler this week. It's not that Scheffler can't win. I think this sets up well for Rory this week. But there you go. There's an exact 50,000. And again, I don't know your price structure, Darnell, but for DraftKings, there's probably a pretty common looking balanced build for that. Let me see here. Z1 to Z6. There's the problem. Yep. All right. Let's see. Let's try to build a stars and scrubs approach here. If you're going stars and scrubs, even though he's the most projected owned player in the field, you kind of just have to go Jon Rahm if you're going stars and scrubs. I'm gonna take a page out of your book, Darnell. Let's bottom out, full on bottom out with Hudson Swanford. Rahm, Swanford. Let's see, who would we gather here in the middle? Let's do Munoz. You mentioned Munoz. Again, this is I'm not trying to build a unique one. This is maybe what a common stars and scrubs would look like. Cameron Smith. Let's see. Where's he projected ownership? He's at 12%. I think a lot of people would like to go John, Rahm, and Bryson, and maybe try to squeeze in another one. I don't know if it would be able to work, but they're gonna probably try. Let's see, who else down here? Hoffman, Munoz, Scotty Scheffler's getting a lot of play. Matsuyama's getting a lot of play. Berger. We'll throw in we'll say Cameron Smith just to do different people here. Yeah, Hovland's always a good play as well. I like Hovland this week. If we go Victor, that gives us 33.5. That's what, 7,200 or so per. Vegas. I like Answer a lot this week. I really like Answer a lot. Answer is one of the two pivots in that high 8K range. He's only a projected 9%. The only one lower in the whole 8K range than Answer is 7% Webb Simpson, and I like them both. Let's finish this here real quick. Let's go Munoz. Let's go Vegas. And that gives us, what, 9,400? There you go. I imagine, this isn't in order, and I apologize, but I imagine this would be a, quote, average or chalky-looking Stars and Scrubs approach. Rahm, Rory, Hovland, Vegas, Munoz, Swanford. I think that would probably be a very common Stars and Scrubs approach right there. To your point, or to your question here, I got to switch views just due to the software. All right. So the reason why I like Answer this week, he just doesn't have a really bad stat. He's bent his favorite surface. Granted, he's generally better in the wind, but because I think this is going to play easy, we truly don't know. Best surface is bent. He's best when it's easy. He's in fantastic form. I mean, absolute fantastic form. Just forget the St. Jude. Take the St. Jude out. He didn't have a good Northern Trust. He's still gaining at the Travelers. He ball struck the living shit out of it at the U.S. Open. Just couldn't do a damn thing else. But he still struck it very well, as he was doing beforehand. Top 10 at the PGA, second at the Wells Fargo. He's top 5 at the Valspar despite losing strokes on approach. I mean, he's been playing fantastic. He had a bad tournament last week. It happens. So I think he's due for a rebound. Not only that, if he were chalky, I'd be okay fading him. But because he is strictly a pivot, I'm all in on Answer. I won't use him in every lineup, obviously, but I like Answer a lot. So I'm going to do one more lineup for you all. No, he's not. He's absolutely not long off the tee, and this is a very long course. So the thing is, with this course, because they made such an emphasis on narrowing the fairways, there's a site, the GCSAA, the Superintendents Association, Golf Course Superintendent something association. They always bring out the tournament fact sheet before the week of the tournament. They made a point of emphasis that they narrowed the fairways. So if narrowing the fairways means it's going to be harder to hit the fairways, which generally it means that, not necessarily all the time, but if they've narrowed the fairways, then it's going to put much more of a premium on hitting the fairways. Well, Answer's not long on the tee, but he's going to hit fairways. Same thing with Webb Simpson. I mean, all of Webb Simpson's struggles, all of his lack of off the tee game is all in distance. But if a premium set on hitting the fairways, I want Webb Simpson. And he's the true pivot in this area at 7.5%. Answer's at 9%. I'm fine with both. Now, that's not to say that I won't play chalkier options like Connors. We talked about Connors earlier. I will certainly have some exposure to Paul Casey, even though he's very chalky. Scheffler, Berger. But I like Answer for DFS purposes this week. I like Webb Simpson for DFS purposes this week, especially since not a lot of people are on him. Again, my tune would change if they were getting more play than they are. Again, these are just projected ownerships from Fantasy National. So, by the time you lock in your lineup tomorrow morning and Webb Simpson's at 20%, well, shit. I mean, I can just go by, because I'm a member at fantasynational.com, I can just go by what they are projecting as of right now due to, other members at Fantasy National. I'm going to build one more lineup for you all, and I'm going to try to find some uniqueness in here for you all. Generally speaking, you can tell how the public's going by either stars and scrubs or a balanced approach. The data is kind of all over the place right now based on these projected ownerships. The high 9Ks, this area up in here, the low 9Ks and the 10Ks are just getting a ton of play. I mean, a ton of play. Here's your most projected owned player, 22.5%. Deschamps at 21. Rory's at 18, 19. So, you want to see Burns and English? Like, throw them in the lineup or throw them out? I don't like Burns this week. English I can be talked into. I don't like Burns this week. I don't know why. It's more of a gut feeling thing. Like, there's a lot of things here that are just bad, just bad. But if you want to see Sam Burns and Harris English, I'm going to try to squeeze them into this portion. They might actually have to be. Well, yeah, he has a lot of red for the statistics that I'm valuing. I mean, you might value something else, and you might put different percentages in those statistics. At least the way I am seeing the course play, I don't like Burns this week. But I also said that literally last week I said I don't know if this course sets up well for Tony Finau. Well, shit. So again, it's. Am I going to interpret it perfect every time? Of course not. I have been pretty successful at this. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I've been pretty successful at this. We all have bad weeks, so I don't see how this works for Sam Burns. I don't, and especially at the price point either. At $8,300, I mean, yes, he's chalky, but for $100 less, who are you more confident in, Paul Casey or Sam Burns? I know what that answer is for me. I already talked about Webb Simpson at 200 more. English is different. English, I mean, he's ninth in my model. I usually don't play English because he's generally pretty popular. He doesn't give himself a lot of opportunities, but he certainly avoids the bogeys. Very good at the drivable par fours, the long par threes. You want to see Harris English, Sam Burns. I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is going to have to be more of a up in here. Of course. Formulas. Why do you do this to me? All right. Let's just make this easy. And top end, huh? Well, it looks like you're going to be saving quite a bit of money if this is your second high guy. Well, I mean, if you have a gut feeling on Sam Burns, by all means, I think you can find better ways to find your unique. Paul Casey is extremely chalky. So, if you're okay eating that chalk, by all means, play Paul Casey over Sam Burns. But like I've liked Sung Jae this week. And at the beginning of the show, I talked about how I believe in the talent of Sung J M. He just hasn't put it all together yet. One week he'll lose strokes with with his irons. The next he'll lose it with the putter. The next is off the tee. I would rather be early than late on a player. So if I'm early on Sung J and he doesn't win, doesn't play well, so be it. I was taking a chance. But I would rather be that as opposed to after Sung J wins and then paying the premium of the price knowing that he's back. I just listened to others in industry but didn't deep dive. Yeah, well, just as a quick, data and data archiving basically has been my professional life for a while. So not only that, I don't particularly have a favorite golfer. I just like golf, but more importantly, I just like statistics. So, and being new into this industry, this realm of betting golf, I don't have the horror stories that some of these others do. Like, 3 years ago I bet Charlie Hoffman and he missed a putt on the 18th hole that cost me X amount of dollars. I don't have that. I'm sure I will build it if I keep doing this, but I'm approaching this purely from an objective point of view. Like I said, I don't have a favorite golfer. I just look at stats. Hey, I'm all the power to you. So far I've been fairly profitable. I've certainly taken my lumps some weeks, but hey, keep coming back. I really appreciate the interaction. Keep coming back. Let me know how you do this week. Stats definitely matter. So, as the old ESPN show, numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. So here, I'm gonna build this lineup for you real quick. You said I talked you off of Sam Burns. So if we're gonna anchor Harris English, I would really like to put him here at third. That way you get two stellar guys. But due to his price point, we're gonna put him here for now. With the I appreciate that, Darnell. I really do. I really do appreciate that. I'll throw in Hudson Swanford for you. That way we can save some money there. You were all over Cameron Davis, and I am too. Let's do Cameron Davis. The goal. Let's try to get the goal. He's the number one player in the world for a reason. If we can squeeze John Rahm in there, great. If not, I have no problem dropping to say like Justin Thomas or. Honestly, I've been targeting DJ a lot in this range. It seems like DJ's just being forgotten about. I like DJ this week. I do. But if you can get the number one player in the world in your lineup, why wouldn't you? You mentioned Daniel Berger. Let's put Daniel Berger in there because I like Berger. That gives us 8,000 exactly, and it happens to be a guy that I was talking about in Sung J. Now certainly this is a very risk reward type lineup, which for your contest sounds like it favors that. It sounds like it favors the risk reward. If you're not playing anyone at the top, then you can distribute this money however you like. Maybe you don't like Sung J, so you can change Sung J. You mentioned Victor, old Big Dick Vic. Play Victor there. You still got 10-6. That's technically Justin Thomas. There's another idea for you. You didn't want anybody at the top, so you could change. You can bring Hudson Swanford in. Hey Josh, how you doing, pal? Jumped in right at the end. I had a lot of Matt Wallace, of course. He had the worst score of round one. Yeah, that. I don't care if he turns into Prime Tiger. So you got a little bit of scorn, huh, Darnell, on Sung J? I get it. I have a little bit on Max Homa. I was all over Max Homa this year at the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, and he shit the bed. Yeah, Josh, I had some Matt Wallace last week. It turned out, it didn't turn out well. Didn't turn out well for me, Josh. How'd you do? How'd you do in your DFS? 95. That's Cameron Smith. I don't know if you like Cameron Smith this week, Darnell, but there you go. There's a non, top end player type lineup for you. You bottom out at Cameron Davis, who I like a lot this week. You get Vegas, Hovland, Berger, English, Smith. The problem is I think this lineup's going to be pretty chalky. I think this is going to be fairly common as well. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's your lineup. It's your lineup. If you're okay with it, send it. I don't hate this lineup at all. Shit, now I got to write this one down. Fuck. Another contest I got to get in. Damn it. You're spending my money, Darnell. So anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for the show this week. As a reminder, if you weren't here at the top of the show, for the Tour Championship next week, normally I go Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday, research, data dive, and DFS. I'm going to roll that all up into one episode on Tuesday night. Didn't play much, but my lineup was yeah. That sometimes you just have that. Sometimes you just have that kind of week. Certainly the lineups that I had with Matt Wallace went up in flames, that's for sure. But getting back to next week, I'm going to roll all of my content into one show, being a 30-player field and all that stuff. Not sure how much DFS and betting and such I'm going to get into. Plus, I'll be leaving for Huntsville, Alabama, pretty much Thursday morning, maybe Thursday evening. So I don't want to be pushed for time Wednesday night. So I'm going to roll everything up into a Tuesday night show. Not afraid to go long on the Tuesday night show for you all. Rom, Casey, Cameron Smith, Keegan, Tringali, Wallace. Was that your lineup last week? No, it had to be because Wallace isn't here. Thanks, Darnell. I appreciate that. I really do. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Again, I'm live every Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday for golf, minus the week coming up. But once the season, once the Tour Championship ends and the new season starts at Safeway, I'll pick it right back up. Appreciate it. Thanks, Darnell. Good luck with all your contests. Again, come in Tuesday for the Tour Championship show. Let me know how you did. I really want to hear that. So with that, guys, follow me on social media. That's where you're going to find my betting card for this week. Pretty light card for me. I hammered Rory. I got a very good price on Rory. I'm excited for it, which means he's going to withdraw now because that's just the way my life goes. But guys, good luck with all your contests this week and your betting and all that stuff. I certainly hope so, Darnell. I certainly hope so. I want to go down to Huntsville, Alabama, and play in that tournament with some money in the pocket. That'd be great. So that'll do it for the DFS Tactics show. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for interacting. I love it. Even if we're busting each other's chops, it's well deserved on my end, especially. But for tonight, for this week, and every other week, may all your bets be profitable.